Chicago's one of my favorite food scenes. My wife and I, we went there a few years ago for our anniversary. Loved it. The food is unbelievable.
It's unreal.
So what would be your go-to there?
I can't just name one. Honestly, it's probably a restaurant you never heard of because it's just like a small Italian. There's so many of these small Italian restaurants that have like history of grandma's sauce that was passed down through it's.
Yeah, they call it gravy too. They don't even call it like.
It's gravy. It's gravy.
The Italian gravy.
The one in Colombia, Mamma Mila's.
They have that.
They call it. I think they're crack sauce.
Crack sauce. Yeah. So it'd have to be a hole in the wall.
Do you know Achevel, the burger joint?
Yeah,
it's like
I've
rated
never
like the best burger. Mm-hmm. They're coming to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
There's a place in Chicago called Russell's. It's a rib place.
Ribs.
It's insane.
Okay.
Russell's is really good.
And then what was the Italian spot called?
There's so many. There's a place called Sorrento's. There's a place where my grandparents grew up. I don't even think it's there anymore. I don't remember.
Here's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Because now that we've started, this is a thing we ask people about.
Yeah.
We need to create like a maps guide of all the places and have that as a little resource.
Oh, yeah.
A restaurant resource.
We're going to do it. And yours is going to be on there.
Yeah.
And if you find a Spring Hill
Sorrento's, Garcia's.
Because we know people are coming from all over the world to go to Spring Hill.
Totally. So what I'll say this. I'll say this about Chicago. You have to do Italian beef.
Okay.
So Portillo's is probably the staple, but there's a place called Jay's Italian Beef. And then there's also a place called Johnny's Italian Beef in Oak Park. It's it'll make you want to slap your mama.
What is that? Is it just like
Italian beef is like it's shredded beef that is in like this au jus.
Ooh.
And it's not like go to the butcher and it's different. It's like a whole different. And then you can get jardinere on there. You can do sweet peppers.
Man, you're getting me hungry.
Amazing.
How long did you live in Chicago?
22 years.
Was it cool being from the city where the greatest basketball player who's ever lived?
Yes.
Are you a big Jordan fan?
Massive.
Are you wearing Jordans right now?
I'm wearing Jordans right now.
Representing.
I had a life-size, no joke, a life-size Michael Jordan poster above my bed. And I had Bulls paraphernalia on every wall. Cards, plaques, pennants. Listen, I don't even know, what is a GOAT debate? There's no debate.
There's no debate.
Did you play basketball growing up?
I did. I played in junior college.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You got that hype.
What runs through your veins when people start talking about LeBron's better than you know? You cannot, one, I don't think it's fair to compare, number one. But number two. Well, LeBron's been playing for 60 years in the NBA.
And I just think, he's been playing for forever. And I think he's trying to just build his case why he should be a part of this discussion.
Who do you think's better, Steph Curry or LeBron? I'm a big Steph fan.
I love Steph. I'd probably say LeBron. Listen, man, I think Jordan has the accolades. Jordan did things that LeBron hasn't done, but I just think the alpha killer instinct, and the competitiveness, like Michael Jordan was a
killer,
psycho, absolute psycho, If anything, I think Kobe's more Jordan-esque than LeBron is.
I agree. That's good. I'm glad to know where you stand on that.
We're aligned. It's deeply theological.
We're united.
It's a deeply theological issue. There's unity and agreement.
I'm so proud of my oldest son, Liam. He's 16, and he watches The Last Dance 4 to 5 times a year.
Man,
he just started again. He's like, Dad, I'm going to the bonus room. I'm starting The Last Dance over again.
Such a good
and I'm a proud dad.
It's nostalgic, man.
It's so good. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah, man.
So when did you move to? So you moved from there to Kalamazoo?
Yeah. So we moved to Kalamazoo in 2013. We were there until 2018.
Yep.
So
on staff at a church.
Mm-hmm.
What was your role there?
Yeah. So I was the pastor of groups in spiritual formation.
Okay.
So I was in Illinois. I was doing youth ministry and college ministry, and I had just gotten my master's in spiritual formation, and just wanted to work with adults.
Did you know when you were going to college, I want to be ministry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew in college, when I was a college student in my undergrad, I knew that I was, that there was a passion stirring in my heart for ministry, that I was going to be set apart to do that. And so I graduated on a Friday night. I got my undergrad. And then that Sunday, I preached my first sermon to
What'd you preach on?
300 college students. I preached on calling or compromise.
Yeah, come on, let's go.
That's awesome.
And so never looked back. And so I came on staff at a church in the same town that I went to school at. And got ordained, and elders kind of collectively affirmed what I was personally feeling called to.
Yeah.
And never looked back. So
that's awesome. So you've been in ministry for how many years now?
19.
19 years. Mm-hmm. So you were at Radiant, and how many years there?
5 years.
5 years?
Yep.
And then that's when you started feeling called to start a church?
Yeah. So when 2017, when that calendar year turned over, that was probably, I don't know, maybe the 6th or 7th year for my wife and I, where we'd begin the year with 21 days of prayer and fasting. It'd always be something specific that we were leaning into. And so when 2016 was ending, I had felt sort of a revelatory shift in my heart. I didn't know what it was, but I had no reason to live. Oh my goodness. I had no reason to leave.
I was about to say, come on.
Come on now. That's why I prayed and fasted. But no, we had no reason to leave. Had a great relationship with our lead pastor. We had family within 45 minutes. And it was probably the best 5 years of life ministry and marriage, living in Kalamazoo during those 5 years. Yeah. And
then you had to practice what you preached for your very first sermon, which is comfort or calling.
That's exactly it. And so I was like, man, I don't know what's going on in my heart, but I feel like whatever this is, this is what we have to pray and fast and lean into. And so we did. And about a week and a half into the fast, God called us out of the boat into the waters of church planting.
Not for the faint of heart.
Not for the faint of heart. And it's funny because that was not like on our bucket list.
Really?
Never. We never wanted to plant a church. We believe in church planting. We believe the local church is God's plan A. We just didn't think that would be something that we would ever feel called to. Yeah. So
what was that moment like for you and your wife? Like how did you come across that realization?
So when we were, there was a Wednesday night service during this season called Seek. That's what our church called it. It was a kind of a corporate call to prayer and fasting. And so it was a Wednesday night service. And a guy named David Perkins came down on a Wednesday. Perkins. And he had just planted a Radiant church less than 12 months before that.
Yeah.
And so he started sharing his story and tied in the story in the Gospels where Peter walks on water. And he asked this question, whose idea was it to walk on water? And it was Peter who says, Lord, if it is you, bid me come.
Yeah.
And so it's this idea of God is always inviting us out of the boat. And I was sitting there that whole time, and my boat was anything but church planting.
Yeah.
And so we get home, we're in the car, kids are in the back that night. We go home and the car ride is silent. And I mean, the Lord just dropped a bomb in my heart that this is why he's inviting me into this season of prayer and fasting to consider this. And so we get home, we put the kids to bed, and I'm just like, I'm in shock, I'm in awe. And I'm like, I've heard I sense him, I hear him, I know this is what he's doing, what he's saying. And so Kim and I sit down on the couch and on the couches in the living room, and she goes, so what did you hear tonight?
Oh man.
She knew.
And I just sat there and I kind of crossed my arms, and I was just like, because I was so afraid for those words to leave my mouth, because I knew that once that got into the atmosphere, it was real.
Yeah.
And she said, Tony, what did you hear tonight? And I got emotional, and I was like, my boat is church planting, and God's calling us out of the boat. And she looked at me and she said, the Lord said the same thing to me.
Wow.
Come on.
And so I was like, crap.
Are you an executive leader looking to level up? Or are you leading a team that could use a crash course into effective leadership? Our Leadership Masterclass teaches 7 essential leadership skills that you can implement immediately with your team. These are practical, proven strategies to help you lead with clarity and confidence. If you're ready to transform your leadership, Sign up today at sidecarleader.com and get started with resources that you can use right away.
And so we went on probably about an 8-month discovery of we heard. And so we needed to sort of put some flesh around that.
Yeah.
The bones of what God was breathing on.
Let me ask you this. So you're on staff at a church and now you know you're supposed to go plant a church.
Yeah.
So how was that transition?
Yeah. So during the middle of the fast, after that Wednesday service, I had a meeting with our lead pastor, a normal withstanding meeting. And he had never asked me this question. And we had finished up our direct report. And he goes to me, he goes, "Hey, Tone, you ever see yourself as a senior pastor? Like being a lead pastor one day?" And I was like, "Oh crap. Has the Lord spoken to him? What I've been sensing?" And I just looked at him and I said, "I do." And he goes, "Yeah, I see that on your life." And he just invited me in and he said,
"Wow,
listen, whenever you're ready, there's never any pressure. But whenever you're ready to have that conversation, just come talk to me."
What a secure leader.
Yeah. And so
what would you say to people? Because, our audience is, church leaders, pastors, whatever. And then we have businesses, business leaders, people in the marketplace, nonprofit space. But what would you say to a person that's in the middle of their own staff somewhere else, but they're feeling this, I think I'm supposed to go do this. What did you learn in that process that you could share, like some wisdom, like if you're navigating that, here's what you should do and maybe here's what you shouldn't do?
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, man, there was an incubation period where what we had sensed, we had to discern that ourselves. We needed the clarity that this was indeed what God was calling us to. And so, it took 8 months before I shared with our senior pastor and our elders where we were at. So we had sat with that for a while.
Yeah.
We needed confirmation that this, a massive move like this.
Yeah.
Sharing news with whatever a senior leader or someone who's at the top of an organization. For some of them, it can be shocking. And so I wanted there to be a track record of, man, these are the moments in this journey of however long from when God spoke to it and when he's sort of grown this, where it just became a burden.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would say. It came to a point where we weren't quick to tell, but we were quick to discern.
Yeah.
And that season took a while to discern that.
Yeah.
And so I think you need to be able to sit with that so you can have the language and the vision to communicate, hey, this is what we've been sitting with for 8 months.
Yeah.
Not 8 minutes.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
This wasn't bad pizza from the night before.
This was not that. Exactly. This is not that. And so to be able to come to a senior leader or, an overseer, whoever that might be, to tell them, hey, we've sat, one, with the Lord. 2, we've dialogued about this, my family and I. We brought in other people that we respect, other mentors, to have sort of a fully orbed vision of where we feel led.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly well received.
Yeah.
And I would also say, you don't know what the Lord's doing on the other side of that, that boss that you're about to tell. Because when I told my senior pastor, and I walked him through that 8-month journey, he just kind of sat in that meeting like this the whole time. And when I got done sharing, he goes, "Let me ask you something." He says, "You keep talking about putting your yes on the table." He says, "Why haven't you put your yes on the table that this is the Lord?" Because he's clearly he's plotting the course for what God's called you to. And so I said, well, me having this conversation is me putting my yes on the table.
Yeah.
Right.
And I did. I asked for his blessing because I wanted to be sent.
Yeah.
And he blessed it. It was a very emotional meeting, like in a really good way. And so we wanted to be released. We wanted blessing. And I think the Lord confirms that in community.
Yeah, that's great. So you guys planted in Nashville.
Yep.
What year did you guys plant?
September of 2018.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Just the planting process, day one or leading up to it?
I think even discerning the city, like how did you know
where to go. Like, I think that's a lot of church planners we talk to. Like, I've got like 10 different cities here and I'm trying to navigate and figure it out. Like what drew you to Nashville?
Yeah. So we, like I said before, we didn't have a dream of planting a church. Wasn't on our bucket list. Wasn't, hey, we're going to do this someday. So we felt like we had a lot of catching up to do with what God was breathing on. And so I said, hey, to my wife, I said, hey, we know that we're supposed to go. We know that we're called to plant, but we don't know where. And so we just started dialoguing about different cities and we weren't getting anything. I said, why don't we do this? Why don't we pray and ask the Lord to burden our heart? This is our very specific prayer. Lord, burden our heart for a people and a place.
Yeah.
And as that burden grows, we'll know. And so through various ways, as we prayed, I remember as we came out of the fast, there were 16 or 17 different Nashville sightings. It came up all over the place. Mind you, we have no network in Nashville. We didn't know anybody in Nashville.
Had y'all been here before?
I came here like in 2007. I think there was like a passion conference when I was like a college student, but that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
No real connection.
No real connection. And so again, we felt that burden and I started to investigate and we drove down here. So before we actually said yes to planting, we drove down, took a 4-day trip and just spent 4 or 5 days in Nashville because we heard and we felt, but we wanted to see.
Yeah.
And so we came and I'm an extrovert who loves coffee. So we'd go to random, because there's a lot of those in Nashville. We went to different coffee shops in Nashville and I just struck up random conversation with random people and said, hey, we're not from here. Can you tell me a little bit about what makes Nashville Nashville? And then I asked people, if there's one thing that you could change about this city, what would it be?
Great question.
And so we got all kinds of answers and so we left and it's not like we wept over the city. We just had more curiosity in our hearts that only caused us to dig deeper. And I think one of the things that we found, especially in the South, in a very churched city, is that at the time, 100 people were calling Nashville home a day. And if it's true that the local church is God's plan A and it's the hope of the world, the growth of the city is outpacing the growth of the local church.
Yeah.
So there needs to be more churches in Nashville.
That's great. And so you guys launched 2018 and then here comes COVID.
What's that?
Never heard of it.
What's COVID?
Never heard of it. Yep. So we were about 1.5 years into our church plant and COVID hit. And
where were y'all in the city?
So we were technically on the outskirts of southern Nashville.
Okay.
Kind of in the Brentwood area. And so we were meeting at a YMCA. And so we were 1.5 years in. So we were meeting in their gym. We outfitted the whole entire hallway, all the hallways, the kids area, pipe and drape to death, the gym.
Covers the multitude of sin.
It absolutely does. And so we had a 20-foot trailer. We would back it up on a Saturday night. We would do a setup on Saturday night, and worship team would show up early on a Sunday morning. And so when COVID hit, one of the first COVID deaths in the county that our church was in happened at the YMCA.
Oh, wow.
There was an elderly man who was a greeter who had passed. And so the director of the YMCA called me and said, hey, you guys can't meet here. And then, of course, different things are starting to put in place in Nashville, no gatherings, things like that. So long story short, the gym that we were meeting in, they basically half of their fitness center, all of their equipment moved into the gym. So we couldn't even meet there if we wanted to.
Yeah.
And so we were displaced for a full year.
Yeah.
We couldn't regather for a full year. And so we had met in some parking lots in the summer. We met in homes for several months. And during that year, those 12 months, there were so many families and individuals in our church that lost their jobs, that moved back home. And so by the time we regathered, it was just about 12 months later. We were meeting in a new location at a new time in a new city in a new county. And by the time we regathered, and you guys know this, post-COVID, it was a whole new world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we that was our transition.
What was that year like for you?
I felt like I was running a marathon and I had crossed the finish line. And when I crossed the finish line, someone ran over to hand me a bike and they were like, "This isn't a marathon, this is a triathlon." And so, I felt like it was interesting because I felt like that there were some moments of great joy. We saw breakthrough. We saw God moving in homes. Unique things were happening that weren't happening pre-COVID. And I think because there was so much disruption and displacement, I think we were trying to find our place in all of that. And when we had finally regathered, it honestly felt like we were relaunching and restarting our church once again. And I know for me, the launch phase of planning a church exhausted me. Some guys get, exhilarated by that. Some guys are wired for that. My wife's more of the starter. That's not me. And so the fact that I had to restart something again took so much out of me.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally, physically. So it was very, very disorienting that time. And I think we tried to find our identity again when we had started for the second time.
Yeah. So you had to come to grips with, I don't think this is going to last. I don't think we can do this. And you guys had to make the tough decision.
Yeah. So we
close the doors.
Yeah. So we, when we restarted, post-COVID, my family and I started to just notice some things internally that we were navigating.
Yeah.
Some health things, some mental things. And by the time we regathered, we said a lot more goodbyes than we did hellos.
Yeah.
A lot of people left. And so during those 12 months of regathering, after COVID, I felt like I did all the things I was told I was supposed to do about checking the gauges on your dashboard, make sure you're Sabbathing, make sure you're getting some time away. And I felt like I was doing all those things, but I was still overwhelmed. I feel like I was burning out.
Yeah.
Never had experienced burnout, but it came to a place where pastoring the church had become too much for our family.
Yeah.
And so we started bringing our overseers, we started praying and having a lot of dialogue. And my wife and I had some really, really honest conversations about where we were at in that season.
Yeah.
And so we made a decision that it was time to close the doors of our church. I mean, everything was dwindling down from volunteers to people to resources, our capacity. I mean, we were praying for fresh wind, fresh fire, refueling of the vision, and it was dry and empty.
Yeah.
And we realized we couldn't steward the church like we once used to.
Yeah.
Here at Sidecar Leader, we don't just develop content that we hope adds value to you. Our bread and butter is really our coaching. If you're feeling stuck as a leader, whether you're navigating growth, strategic planning, staffing decisions, or tackling your toughest priorities, our one-on-one coaching sessions are here to guide you. Together, we'll identify the strategies and steps that will take your leadership to the next level. It's time to invest in your growth because your vision and your team deserve it. If you're ready to get started, you can visit sidecarleader.com/coaching. We can't wait to work alongside of you.
It's a tough decision. Literally yesterday, I had a coaching call with a guy I'd never met before. Someone gave him my number, and same exact situation.
Yeah.
As far as where his family was at. Church, I mean, they got $500,000 in the bank.
Wow.
They're a few years old. They're 200 plus people. So they were doing fine in those aspects. Mm-hmm. But he said, my wife and I, we don't have the capacity to do this emotionally, mentally, physically. And then this is what he said. He goes, I'm just trying to navigate my own heart with this ending.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So talk about that. Like what was going on in your heart? How did you navigate making that tough decision? And then, speak to it.
So we brought in some counselors to just come around and just help us process. And there was this Australian couple that we were doing spiritual direction with that were key voices to help us process what we were doing. And it's interesting, this couple, said to me, because I told them I feel like I finished a marathon and I crossed the finish line, and someone came over and handed me a bike, and I'm back on the bike and I'm pedaling and I don't know where to pedal. And she stopped me, and the wife, and she said, "There's something about this bike. You said that you have to pick the bike up." And she says, whenever we come to a place in our life and ministry where we have to say, I should do this, we should pause, because your should is usually tied to shame.
Wow.
And so I was like, man, we should continue with this church. We should find a way through. We should be okay, but we're not, but we'll find a way. It'll be okay. And so she's like, there's something about this bike, and the Lord's inviting you in to process this. And so I think for me, what I had learned during those 4 years, there's this, in 2 Samuel, one of David's mighty men, Eleazar, there's this obscure verse where it says that his hand froze to the sword.
Yeah.
And that sword for me was our church. And the harder that you hold on to something that God's never called you to truly hold on to, it's going to hurt every time he takes one of those fingers off of that sword. And that was our church. And I had wrapped so much of my identity and my security and dependency on that church, on our church, when in actuality, it wasn't my church to begin with. Jesus is the head of the church. I'm called to steward it. So at the end of the day, it's not really my church. So why don't you give Jesus his church back? And so that's what we did. And I think we came to the realization that, our church, even though we had closed our doors and even though it was coming to an ending, it was actually a new beginning, in the sense of the vision of our church was never meant to be fulfilled in the topography of its four walls. And so life wasn't ending, it was just being redistributed. Because all of those people are a part of the church, the capital C church. And so let them carry the seed of what God breathed into them and what they carried to other smaller local assemblies, into their families, into their neighborhoods, into their marriage. So the vision just lived on. It just got redistributed.
That's great.
And I think when it comes to making sense of an ending, even though that ending for us was incredibly unexpected, it was a necessary ending. And the reality is that we're all going to end something anyways. We're all going to finish something. Every church in the New Testament is a footnote in our Bible. Great churches. And so, for us, we needed to come to the realization that God makes all things beautiful in its time. Ecclesiastes 2, there's a time and a season for everything. And he has made everything beautiful in its time. And so what we realized, man, I thought it took faith to start something and to plant our church. It's a greater faith and a greater courage to finish something and to end it.
Wow. That's
and
great.
So we had to wrestle through that. And that's how we made sense of it personally.
I'm curious to know, I have two questions I want to ask you about that. One of them, you're having to lead people through a decision that you're also processing. So is there anything you learned about how to lead in that kind of situation, or how to lead people through an ending like that?
We met with every single person of our church.
Wow.
We had probably about 60 different meetings in a 2-week span, because our overseers felt like it would have been better to make that something that was going to happen sooner than delayed. So I didn't want them to hear through an email or an announcement on a Sunday. And I think that really helped us process with them, but it allowed them to process with us. And it only brought greater finality and clarity that this was the right decision. And so during those 2 weeks when we met with people, very, very emotional meetings. And I don't think anyone expected that
really
those meetings were coming. No one expected that to be a reality. And so I would say that we just we were very honest with people. We had nothing to hide. We wanted to lead with authenticity and tell them where we were at, tell them where the church was at. And I think what that did was it increased so much gratitude in the hearts of our people for our church and the impact of our church. And so it allowed them to have a beautiful ending. There were some questions, there was some confusion, but I think when we were able to share our heart, it brought so much clarity to them. So it wasn't like because I wanted to pastor them through that.
Yeah.
And I think we pastored them through the uniqueness of how the Lord was pastoring us through that season. And we were just very, very honest with where we were at. And I think it allowed them to be like, oh man, we feel that.
Yeah.
And we're with you guys. And it was nothing but thank yous. And so our last service was this like beautiful, almost like celebration of life type of things where, man, there was grief, but there was so much gratitude for what God had done in those very short 4 years.
That was the season we met.
That was. Yeah, man, you were a lifesaver.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
For me.
I was coming off the hills of my own necessary ending. But so was there any fear of what's next?
Yeah. 100%.
Because you responded to a clear call from God to start a church.
Yep.
And then this happens. I don't know if this ran through your mind, like, God, you called me to do this.
Yep.
Was it bad pizza?
Was it bad?
Yeah.
Did you start to question the call?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had all kinds of questions, and so I went on a 3-month sabbatical. I was already meeting with a therapist. I increased my frequency with my therapist because I knew however long that season was going to last, it was just going to be a season. And I wanted to drench out every morsel of meaning I could get. And there's 5 stages. People say there's 5 stages of grief. There's actually 6, and the 6th stage is meaning. What's the meaning of this?
That's great.
That's really good.
So I wanted to extract what's the meaning of God. What did you? Because we left everything. We left family. We left security. We left community to do this. And what I realized is that we had given it everything. And I think we have this kind of bravado as leaders that, man, you have to give your whole life to the thing that you're called to steward. And I actually don't think that's what Jesus would have for us.
Yeah.
And so we came to a place where, Jesus, you said that your yoke is easy and your burden is light, and it's not. So what have we missed?
Yeah.
And so in that season, man, when our church ended, within 48 hours of being able to process all that, because we donated and sold a lot of our portable equipment to another church that was planning in the area. It was the darkest season I've ever walked through in my entire life, my entire ministry. And I had all kinds of questions. I was struggling with passive suicidal thoughts. Yeah. Question after question, journal entry after journal entry. And what I had to ultimately detangle is there's actually a difference between assignments and calling. Our assignment was to come and plant a life-giving, spirit-led church.
Yeah.
The calling for me is to be an under-shepherd and to keep that staff in hand.
Yeah.
The calling always remains.
It's great.
But the assignment will change.
Yeah.
And I got those two things convoluted. I got those two things confused, and I had to detangle those things.
Yeah.
And then I realized, man, everything and all that I am was tied up into this assignment. And I had uplifted my calling above the one that had called me. That my calling and my assignment were sort of idols in my life. And so I had these disordered loves that I had to reorder during that season.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very dark season. And I felt like the first half of my sabbatical was like a wilderness desert.
Yeah.
And then I was able to lie down in green pastures the second half of that sabbatical. But I had to rediscover who I was. And I think the biggest lesson that I learned through that is that before God calls me a shepherd, he calls me his son.
Yeah.
And I had that backwards from day one.
Yeah.
I'm God's shepherd, and we're gonna plant this church, and we're gonna cultivate the ground, and it's gotta be good soil, and we're gonna bring people to co-labor with us, and we're gonna do all the if we're not careful in the midst of that, we will become shepherds who our God view becomes not God as a father, but God is our taskmaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got to make sure that I do the right things for God. And I think the other thing that I learned in the midst of that is if I'm truly a son and God is my father, I need to come to him as that, because I think one of the occupational hazards for lead pastors is that you can lose your first love, where your relationship with God becomes transactional. God, bring the people. God, grow the church. God, the vision, and help us find a building. And those are my prayers. And the Lord's like, man, I love my house.
Yeah.
And I love my kids, but I love you more.
Yeah.
Is your team ready to thrive? Do they have the resources and clarity that they need to succeed? In our team coaching sessions, we provide the tools and principles needed to drive health and growth, and most importantly, clarity in your organization. We believe that clarity brings the confidence to lead effectively. So many times we're too close to the problems to see them correctly. And through coaching, we're able to bring objectivity and no emotional attachment to help you see your organization clearly. Together, we'll develop a strategic path that empowers your team to implement best practices and take on new challenges with confidence. Let's unlock your team's potential. Want to learn more? Head over to sidecarleader.com/coaching and let's talk about your goals and how we can help you accomplish them.
I love the 6th stage of grief that you added onto that. I've heard someone say it before. Oftentimes when we walk through situations like that, the question we ask is like, why? Why did you allow this, God?
Yeah.
Why did you let this thing happen?
Yeah.
Why did you let this thing end?
Yep.
And the better question for us to ask is, okay, God, this happened. What do you want me to learn through this season?
Yep.
And what is it that I should be walking away from the season with?
Yeah.
Because there's some reason that God allowed you to go through it.
Samuel Chan, in his book, I think it's called Leadership Pain, and he talks about how for a leader, pain is a classroom.
Yeah.
And all of what we learn in life isn't through our successes, but it's actually through pain.
Yeah.
And it was in that season that I learned so much about myself.
Yeah.
So much about who Jesus is and what he calls us to. And I learned a lot.
There's a statement, I think it's Alan Redpath said it. He said, when God wants to do an impossible task, he finds an impossible man and then he crushes him.
Yeah.
And then he says this, so leave room for the crushing.
Yeah, man. That's really good.
Yeah, it's interesting when you walk through seasons of pain like that, how if you ask the right question, the number 6, the meaning question, and you allow the Holy Spirit to teach you, it's like those things, that's the priceless development. Yeah. Like it's so much better than just the other way. I hate learning that way.
I know.
But it's the painful way is like it puts something in you that I don't think can get in you any other way.
Yeah.
I also think one of our friends, Nate Piccini, talks about this often. Like the first thing that we're called to is to become more and more like Christ.
Yep.
That is ultimately what our calling is. Yeah. And so when we replace what we do with our calling, we replace the assignment with the calling.
Yep.
That's where I think that question of like, God, what is it that you're trying to do is part of your true calling of becoming more and more like Christ. Just through this temporary assignment that he had for you.
Yeah. It's so easy to find so much of your identity in that. I remember, we have a very similar story. We planted a church in San Francisco and then COVID shut down for over a year and we had to make that decision as well. Wow. And we united our church with another church and it was a tough season. But I remember, Tony, this sounds so shallow of me, but I remember the day I looked on my Instagram profile and it said, pastor. And I remember like tears streaming down my face and I removed that. I was like, I guess I'm not a pastor anymore. And it sent me in this whole thing of discovering like, okay, because I'm not doing this assignment, am I still a pastor? Or now who am I? What, and it wrecked me. And it's interesting where God brought you is the same place he brought me. Is like, you are first and foremost a son and I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And you didn't fail. the success was that you were an obedient son and you did what I called you to do, you know? And I remember looking back at my Instagram profile like months later and seeing that pastor wasn't there. And then I felt like the Lord, while I was looking at my phone, said, hey, you're still a pastor. Could you just pastor the people in your neighborhood? Could you pastor your family?
Yes.
Could you pastor, there's this ragamuffin group that we used to go to, this small group of guys of this bunch of misfits from Franklin and Nashville. And I felt like the Lord said, you're the only pastor in that group. Could you pastor them?
Wow.
Like, why do you know? And it was a big wrestling with my calling, my identity, my worth, all that stuff. And I'm so glad you spoke to that, because there are a lot of church planners, like I talked to yesterday, that have either walked through that or in the middle of that. Also people that start companies that they're like, they believed in this thing, they start it, and then it doesn't happen. It doesn't work out the way they thought. Or a nonprofit founder that starts something that they truly believed in and then it doesn't work out. And I think it's just so important that we don't find our identity and our worth and our value in those things,
Yeah, that's so good.
So this is, I don't know if I've ever told you this. So we didn't talk for a while after those few little months of yours. And I'm traveling, preaching all over America at all these, my friends' churches. And one weekend I had off and I was at home. And so I tell my wife, and I was like, let's get the kids ready. Let's go to church. And they were all like not feeling well. And I was like, well, I'm going to church. I never get to go to church when I'm at home. And so I just randomly rolled in to this church, and I'm sitting in the back, and I was kind of, hiding behind a pillar there. And I was just kind of sitting there, and you start telling your story, and I'm like, dude, that's Tony. So I go up to the front. Did I tell you this? Yeah. I go up to the front, and I'm like, afterwards, big hug or whatever. And you guys had an ending with Radiant, and then you end up on staff at this other church. Yeah. And that was just a seasonal thing. And we're going to get to like where you're at now. But in that season of stepping, you've gone through healing and all that stuff. And now you're in a new assignment, and you're no longer the senior pastor. Now you're a campus pastor. Yep. What was that season like? Like, what'd you learn in that season? Was that a whole nother classroom for you?
That was a whole nother classroom. And, when we, as that season, sabbatical season was ending, when we were in between seasons, I really had to figure out what was I still feeling called to do? Okay, one, it's pastoring. Great. So what does that assignment look like? And I knew that I still wanted to be a shepherd and pastor people in that kind of capacity within the local church. And so, the Lord once again, in the most random of ways, connected me to this church that I came on staff at as the campus pastor role. And I think for me, it was that season allowed me to sort of rediscover my calling, because even though the assignment ended, there was a part of it where you had some intrepidation to step back into that calling. And so God opened that door, and I shepherded and I led and I pastored as best as I could. And I think in the midst of that, there was this newfound freedom for me to realize that I still am called. Yeah. There are still gifts and callings. And it allowed me in a much larger capacity to do the thing that I was ultimately called and passionate to do. And if someone would have told me, hey man, you're going to plant a church and that thing's going to close after 4 years, but the opportunity that you're going to get after that season is going to be an opportunity for you to rediscover that there still is an anointing on your life. You still can teach and shepherd and equip people. I would have been like, you're crazy. I would have said no. I said, no, I don't want to do that. Just get me there. Yeah. And so, I think going back to the pain thing, it's like you can't go over it. You can't go under it. You have to go through it. And going through that season allowed me to develop and to hone in and cultivate my skills and my passions. And I think being at that church for that season as a campus pastor allowed me to really spread my wings. Yeah. And it only stirred up a greater passion once again for the things that had always been in me that I thought died.
Yeah. What if your team had a clear roadmap for the next 12 months on what was most important, complete with objectives, key metrics, owners, and deadlines? And not only that, but also the accountability to see the plan through. Through our team planning offsites, we're able to help you unlock and identify where you are, where you want to go, and how to get there. With a focus on goals, key metrics, and actionable strategies, we'll build a plan that keeps you on track all year and provide the accountability to ensure that you execute what you planned. If you plan your work and you work your plan will work if it's a good plan. If you're ready to set up your team for success, clarity, and a clear roadmap moving forward, you can go to sidecarleader.com/coaching and let's make your vision a reality.
So you made a statement earlier that everything's beautiful in its time.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome for me to kind of have a front row seat and to see your journey. Mm-hmm. I know it hasn't been easy, but now being able to be a part of what God's doing now you've planted another church.
Yep.
It's flourishing.
Yeah.
It's growing.
Yeah.
What was that initial conversation like with Kim when second time around, here's what I think God's calling us to do. What was that like? It
was, are we really going to do this again? Like that was the conversation. And once again, we, for us, this wasn't like, again, our dream ideal setup and situation to plant a church the first time. So to do it again was us doubling down on, are we going to say yes to our biggest no again?
Yeah.
And I think what we realized coming out of that season, that there was still a pioneering spirit in us. There was still new roads that needed to be paved that we just became impassioned with once again. And what we realized that when our church plant ended, the dream and the vision, even though the doors had closed and that season had come to an end, that passion to pioneer and that vision that the Lord, that why of when we left Kalamazoo to move to Nashville to plant was still alive in us.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's awesome.
And so yeah, man, we had a lot of conversations. I think one of the things that we said is that if we're going to plant again, it has to be unique to us.
Was that one of the big learnings from the first go round?
Yeah.
Like,
what does that mean?
Yeah, I think for us, to be honest, when we planted the first time, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so you're collecting all kinds of ways and methods and means of how to start a local congregation. And sometimes, you just take all of those things, not knowing what you don't know. And it's just like, oh, this is all going to work and it's all going to pan out.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do when it doesn't?
Yeah.
And so we just went back to the drawing board and say, hey, we want to start very organically, very uniquely, and maybe unconventional, but how would we want to start this? Well, we want to start it really small.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't want to have to recruit a bunch of people. I want this to be at our pace.
Yeah.
And I think we had felt that we had to cross certain markers the first time on a certain timeline.
Yeah.
And that wasn't helpful.
I think the way that you guys have planted this second church, it is so true to who you are as a pastor. Like even going back to your roots of like getting your degree in formation, and me watching you just take it like, hey, we're not trying to just launch some large thing. We want to deeply form people's lives with the gospel. And like even like I remember when you were like, dude, I'm starting pancakes and
waffles and word.
Waffles and word.
I remember getting those emails.
Yeah, you bring the waffles and I'll bring the word and we'll run after Jesus together and see what happens.
And it's just grown and grown and grown. You've outgrown homes and people are being discipled, lives are being changed. Yeah. And even some of the stuff you've told me, like, that's so different from what you did before. Like you're teaching the word, there may be a moment of a prophetic word where you're, it's just, it is so who you are now. Yeah. It's so different. And I love it because I think it's pretty easy in the church world that we live in now to just get the cake batter mix with the instructions and follow the instructions and boom, now you have a church.
A little franchise model.
Yeah. And it's so easy. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have best practices. Like it's great. It's wonderful. But I think at the end of the day, there's a grace and an anointing on you doing and being who God has called you to be.
Yeah.
And I'm watching you do that, and I think it's so beautiful. It's amazing to see. And again, everything's beautiful in its time.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
also love how you talked about pace, because I think it can be easy to feel like your pace has to match up to something, which is just another form of comparison.
Yes.
Comparing what
Absolutely.
God is doing in my thing versus what God's doing in your thing.
Yeah.
And he's not, hasn't called it to be the other person's.
That's really good.
One of the phrases that I feel like we've kind of rallied around and have started making early on in our church plant, making leadership decisions around is like, we will go at the pace of provision. So like, while there might be vision to do A, B, and C, if the provision that God has given us is for A, then like B and C is still part of the vision, but we'll just get there when God gives us that provision for it. And I think that's been a healthy place, rather than feeling this pressure of I'm supposed to have B and C right now. So I've got to make B and C happen, regardless of if God's given me the provision for B and C.
You don't want to, you don't want to outpace God. Right.
It's a dangerous spot to be in.
I think he paints on a canvas much larger than we can ever imagine. And his ways are above our ways. His thoughts are above our thoughts. And we have to trust that if this is the provision I have right now, well, then that means that I need to be doing this because that actually matches that. The other phrase that we've used recently is going at the pace of relationship. Like, and what we've seen is like, man, honestly, if 1,000 people just showed up this Sunday, 1,000 new people, we can't handle that.
Right.
We want to strengthen the relationships that we have currently in our church, and there be true, real, authentic relationships, not familiar strangers on Sunday.
Absolutely.
And as we're doing that, it just feels like it's, instead of swelling, we're growing.
Which doesn't mean we wouldn't welcome the 1,000 people.
I'll take them.
But we want to be ready, and we want to be resourced to actually pastor those people well, rather than just run a great marketing campaign that works and then you can't pastor the people that you marketed to.
The other thing I would add too, and I'm learning this in this moment for our church, is that the church also runs at the speed of trust as well. So whether it's an organization or a startup or a church, you know, especially in our context, however you want to frame it up, you know, church hurt is a real thing. Pastors in churches aren't viewed how they were 10 years ago, let alone 5 years ago.
I think authority is viewed the same way.
Absolutely. And so running at the speed of trust, where one, you know, they're still trusting me, I'm still trusting them, and together we're still trusting God with this. And so, you know, a part of that is stewarding and shepherding and leading the people under your care, not the ones that aren't under your care. Not worrying about those who aren't in the room right now, but
that's
those who are.
so easy for pastors to do. I've done it. We've all done it. You're so focused on who's not in the room. And you're not valuing, caring for, and loving the people that are in the room. It's so easy to do that, man. Who's not there. And it will drive you crazy. And it's like, man,
it will.
Love and serve and care for those people that are in right in front of you, and God will give you the people, you know,
that's
right. Take care of it. So let me ask you this question. So as it's growing, you know, church is growing, what are some of the things that you are being intentional with guarding and making sure that as it quote unquote scales, that you're like, we have to make sure that we protect this, we guard this?
You know, for us, one of the core things that I think this might seem really simplistic, and I think this is one of the learnings, you know, if wisdom is learned experience, we want to be wise this time around and learn from what we did last time. When we had planted our first church, it had become so much about what we were doing, how we were doing it, the programs, the systems, the strategy, the setup, the tear down, all those things are important. But in the midst of that, all those things were present, but Jesus was absent. And so what's very simplistic that we're guarding at all costs is we want Jesus's presence amongst us in everything that we do.
It's great.
And so, so when we come together to gather to encounter Jesus. All of our preaching points to Jesus. We have a very, very intentional time right now where we come to the Lord's table and we take communion every single Sunday, but it is the pinnacle of our gathering. gosh, not the preaching, not the preacher, but Jesus.
Yeah.
And so we do that very, very intentionally. Every last Sunday of the month, we gather in homes. There are certain things that you're limited to in a corporate gathering that you can experience, but you can't experience it in the home. And so I think the biggest thing for us is we want to love Jesus, and we don't want anything to get in the way of that. And so, man, there's been a handful of times where, there's certain people that are volunteering that get sick the night before or that morning. And it's just like, that's okay. Jesus is still going to gather amongst us.
Yeah.
So how can we do that?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's at the expense of those things, and Jesus takes secondary. So Jesus is primary. All the other things are secondary. We want to guard that, and we want to love each other really, really well.
Yeah.
And gathering in homes allows us to do that. We have prayer meetings once a month that allow us to do that, to really care for one another and to be the church.
Yeah.
I think
great.
my mind immediately went to Jesus clearing the temple.
Yeah.
And, if you go to that place where he walks in, it is packed with people, crowds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's overflowing with people everywhere. And the machine is working. It's doing its job.
Yep.
The systems are working. The structure's in place, the way it's been designed. The thing that's missing, though, is presence.
That's right.
Its activity has replaced intimacy.
That's good.
And I think it's so easy to have the machine working, and it's yielding the results that the machine does.
Yeah.
We have the systems, we have all the stuff, we have the experience, and crowds show up.
Yep.
And there's no presence.
That's it.
It's so easy, and it looks successful.
That's right.
It looks very successful.
And we come to the place where we're dutiful for Jesus without delighting in Jesus.
That's fantastic.
And so that we're guarding our delight in Jesus at all costs.
I love that. I want to ask you this. There's so much that I think can be taken away from this. If you were to speak to the leader who's starting something new today, whether it's a new church, a new ministry, a new nonprofit, a new business, what would your advice be to them?
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah. I think what I would say is, there was a movement in the past few decades on strength-based leadership, leaning into your strengths, identifying your strengths. And what can happen is that you lean into your strengths so much that you become self-sufficient. And I think Jesus is in the business of trying to strip us of our self-sufficiency. Because when we come to the end of our strengths and we actually find our weaknesses, we actually become perfected by the Spirit of God, who comforts us in our weakness, who strengthens our weakness. And I think there has to be a posture that's in a place that you come to time and time again, daily, to recalibrate who you are, who's given you those strengths, and for Jesus to be the one that's your North Star in all that you're doing.
Yeah.
Jesus says, apart from me, you can do nothing. And if we're so tapped into our strength, it's like, oh man, I'm the wind's at my back and I'm leading within my strengths, and we're so afraid of tapping into our weaknesses. We're so afraid of failure. And I think oftentimes on the other side of our weakness, on the other side of our failure, is a strength that only Jesus can give you.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So good.
And so you have to reorient yourself every day, die to yourself every day, die to the organization, the vision, everything, and lay it before God in a holy surrender, yielding to what he wants to fill you with. Because at the end of the day, if anything accomplishes, if there's any success, I want to be able to say, I didn't do that, but the Lord did that.
Yeah.
Because it was within his strength that we accomplished what we accomplished.
That's so good.
Tony, I love you so much, bro.
Love you, man.
This has been fantastic.
Appreciate you. Thank you guys
for taking time. I know it's going to be very helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.